Sales are easy. It's making the call that's hard. Hi, my name is Dave Gallegos. I've spent the last 25 years in the mortgage industry and a lifetime in sales. In this show, I'll bring that experience, expertise, and the experts I've met to you with actionable advice to improve your sales. It's not magic. You just make the call. Hi, everybody. Well, we made it. We're on episode 4. We're ahead of 90% of everybody who ever started a podcast because 90% of them don't go past episode 3. So episode 4, a huge milestone. Now, so out of 2 million people, what that means, out of 2 million podcasts that are started, 200,000 of them get this far out of 2 million. So we're in really good company. Now, if I can just keep it going past 20, and I'm going to keep it going past 20. I never start something and then not finish it. So I'm looking forward to that. And I hope you're enjoying these podcasts. Make the Call is for mortgage and real estate professionals primarily, but any sales professional I think is going to benefit from this because what I talk about in these podcasts is universal. And so much of it relates to mindset and strategy and philosophy rather than specifically selling mortgages and real estate, although we're going to talk a lot about that. Today, I want to talk about harnessing the power of numbers. And I'll tell you what I think is the coolest thing about the mortgage business is that we sell a product everybody wants. What I mean by that is if you don't own a home, you want to own a home. Right. And so this is America. I've talked about this before. People risk life and limb to come to this country. And I believe one of the big reasons is an opportunity to have a home of their own. It's just to me, it's just such a universal, I want my own place thing that it doesn't matter. I think regardless of where you were born and what country you're in, you all want a place of your own. It creates security, it creates familiarity, it creates community, it creates family, and a home of your own builds that. And you know, the homeownership rate in America is, always been really strong in the mid to upper 60% range. And, for households, anybody who ever owned a home or grew up in their own home typically wants to own their own home because of that community, that all the things that I just mentioned. So they want to perpetuate that for their own families. So you sell a product everybody wants in mortgage. And if they already have a mortgage, they'll all take a better mortgage if a better one's available. So think about that, right? So if somebody has a 5% interest rate, you can get them a 4.5% interest rate and structure it in a way that makes sense. And there's a good, it's a relatively financially wise break-even point, then people are going to do it. So what that means is almost wherever you go, everyone you see is a potential customer. Think about that. Everywhere you go and almost everyone you see is a potential customer, right? So that's an unlimited opportunity to sell a product. And what I've always found intriguing about this is that in how many people are really in the world, right? I think it's difficult. It's always been a little challenging for me to fathom that because we're just exposed to a limited number of people. So I remember driving down the highway once and I looked over and there was a Ford dealership. And I think I was on my way to the airport, DIA. And I drove by a Ford dealership and, I don't know how many hundreds of cars or maybe even thousands of cars happened to be parked on the parking lot that people are going to buy. I was like, man, they have a lot but I remember thinking, man, they sure have a lot of cars to sell. And I'm driving down the highway again for a time, and I don't know where I was, but I rode past another Ford dealership, and it wasn't that far from the last Ford dealership. And another huge parking lot full of cars that they had to sell. And I remember thinking, who the hell are they going to sell all these cars to? And that's when it dawned on me. It's like going, yeah, it's really hard to fathom just how many people there are in the world. And that's when you're selling a product, when you sell mortgages, you're selling a product that everybody wants because everybody wants to be a homeowner. It's America. It's the American dream, right? All of those reasons. And then you have to keep going and go like, well, how many people are there? And the fact is that there's an unlimited number of people that you can sell that product to. Another approach on this for me is whenever I've been at like a sporting event, like a big sporting event, like a Bronco game or a Nuggets or an Avalanche game or a Rockies game. Not that too many people are at the Rockies games. That's another subject. But And you just look around. I remember I do this all the time, and I still do it. I look around, I'm like, wow, everybody here is a potential customer. And if I just knew them and they knew me, I could connect with them and I'd have an opportunity to help them. So what does this all mean? Like, what does all of that data do for you? It just reinforces how you just need to have more conversations. Goes back to my quote from my business coach, Mike White, who we're going to have on a future episode, that if you're not doing enough business, you're just not talking to enough people. Here's another strategy that I find interesting, and I love sharing this with people because they always come away going, wow, you're right. There is a lot of people in the world. If you pull up to an average semi-busy intersection, or just whenever you're driving down the highway, it's not as good when you're driving down the highway because you can't count as many cars, but when you're stopped at an intersection and it's a busy intersection and the cars are going the other way, and you're there for what? I don't know how long a light is, a couple of minutes, maybe. Count cars. Just count how many cars go by that intersection. And if you're there in a couple of minutes, you can see 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 cars in a couple of minutes go by. You're at one intersection in one city for 2 minutes, and you can count 50 or 60 cars. How many people are there? And that's the question, is like, man, there are so many people and so many opportunities. When you're flying in from DIA, this is my last one. When you're flying in to DIA and you fly over the mountains and you start to see all the homes that are here, and you sell mortgages, and every one of those people who, if they have a mortgage, they'll take a better one if a better one's available. And if they're renting, they want to buy one of those homes. This just goes back to what I'm trying to emphasize, is the importance of picking up the phone and making the call. Because the more relationships you have, the more opportunities you are going to have to be able to help more people, which translates into a bigger commission check. It really just does come down to how many relationships do you have. There's an old line that Tim Brahim, the business coach, I think he coined this line. It's the loan officer with the most friends wins. And that's true. The loan officer with the most friends wins, because that's the person with the most relationships. And then, of course, you have to cultivate those relationships, and you can't be transactional. You have to be relational. People do business with people they like and people they trust. The focus of today's episode is to make sure that you understand just how much opportunity really exists. And if you're not getting enough of your share, it's because you're just not talking to enough people. But the market is there for sure. And, you know, in mortgage and real estate, you don't really talk people into buying this product, right? Because I don't think you can talk somebody into getting a home who doesn't want to own a home. I don't think you can talk somebody into getting a mortgage who doesn't want to get a new mortgage. The only time you're going to do that is if it's good for them. And so having the opportunity to talk to as many people as possible so that you can share that is really the focus of what it is you're trying to accomplish. So just think about it. You sell a product that everybody wants, that's good for everybody. Their life is better because they have it. People come to this country for one of the main reasons, I believe, is the opportunity to own their own home. It's the American dream. You have all these things working in your favor. If you're not doing enough business, because you're just not talking to enough people and you don't have enough friendships. It's just realizing how much opportunity really exists and taking advantage of it. Yeah, you have to get to know them. You have to spend time. It isn't instant. You've got to develop relationships. You've got to nurture those relationships. You got to use a CRM to stay in touch. You've got to do all of that stuff. But it all starts with you picking up the phone and making the call. And that's the purpose of this podcast, is to get you motivated to want to do that. So this is a little bit of a shorter one today, but I think it emphasizes the point of making sure I want you to understand the power that you have of really impacting as many lives as possible. And you go back to what we talked about on the last episode of the purpose and the why behind what you're doing. If you want to really fulfill that purpose and make a difference, then you just have to talk to more people. And that just comes down to making more calls. And understand that if you live in our market, in the Denver, Colorado market, really most markets are like this, there's any number of unlimited opportunities to help people. You just got to make the call. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Make the Call with Dave Gallegos, brought to you by Zenith Home Loans. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the show anywhere you listen to podcasts. and share the show with a friend or colleague who would also find value.